Listen, they are lying to you. The filmmakers behind Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes are trying to sell you a dream that this movie was entirely made with special effects, suits, CGI, prosthetics. But that's not the truth. What really happened is they went out and found 200 to 300 actual apes who could talk and just taught them to be actors. That's the only reasonable and logical explanation for this film to exist.
Before your king. Never.
But all jokes aside, the new Planet of the Apes film displays all the characteristics that the franchise has become known for and embodies all of the great things that are hallmarks of great sci-fi. Because of course, great sci-fi holds a mirror up to the audience and invites them to question society as a whole and their place in it.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And from beginning to end, Kingdom does that in almost every scene without ever getting preachy or boring. We're a few hundred years after Caesar's reign, and you have this young ape named Noah who has to go and save his people from slavery. Now, they named him Noah, and I do give them a little credit for not being totally on the nose and naming him something like Moses. But even being named Noah, there is some parallels in this movie to the biblical Noah, but it's not as overt and it's a little bit more subtle, so it was all cool with me. So as Noah is on his journey, he encounters a couple of companions, which includes a young human who is more than meets the eye in a couple of different ways. And throughout this movie, we touch on more than a few philosophical and social issues, from religion's role in political power structure and its use to control the masses, to the value of an individual life compared to the lives of the group or the masses, and the moral complexities between one person taking another person's life. And none of these issues are new to sci-fi or new to this franchise, but at the same time, the movie handles them in a way where it comes at them from a few angles that we don't typically see all the time, and it does it in a way where the pace of the movie doesn't get bogged down in the question and in the complexity of it. It just moves right along and asks you, the viewer, to make a determination on what was right and what was wrong. Now, my absolute favorite character in this movie is the character Proximus. And while that choice, I don't think is that out of left field, I think a lot of people will enjoy this character. He's very charismatic, he's very entertaining, and he chews up every scene that he's in. But my reasoning for picking him as my favorite might throw a couple people. And from the moment he shows up, and throughout him explaining his motivations and his plot, and when the totality of what he's trying to do unfolds,
Apes will learn. I will learn.
It kept bringing up in my mind historical figures that occupy kind of the same position as Proximus and how they're viewed in their time versus how we view them in a historical context. Because what Proximus is doing in the movie is objectively horrendous. He's very clearly the villain of the story. There's no ambiguity about that. But at the same time, the things he's doing are very similar to historical figures who are celebrated. The first one that popped in my head was Emperor Qin in China, who the country's named after. He was the first emperor of China, and before him, China wasn't one country. It was a bunch of different smaller nations and tribes and all these different things. It was very segmented. And he had this vision of a unified nation, and so he went tribe by tribe and conquered everybody. And he took over the entire country and made it one nation, China. So the achievement is incredible. There's no argument there. But at the time that he was doing this, he had to commit some very violent acts, probably some very heinous acts. This was not an easy thing to just conquer everybody. And so I wonder how he was viewed at his time, how much it varies from how he's viewed today in a historical context. And that's what I was thinking watching Proximus, because he's very clearly the villain of this story. But if you were to fast forward 200-300 years, and what would he be like to those apes and to those people who grew up under what he had built? And they kind of touch on this in the movie in the reverse with Caesar and Caesar's legacy and how what Caesar built and how it's kind of been misinterpreted as of late. They kind of touch on that, but Caesar was always the good guy in his story, and so him being misinterpreted into something negative is not that out of the ordinary for us as viewers. But Proximus is more in line with actual historical figures, and to see what his legacy would have been generations later, it would have been an interesting thing to kind of tackle, and would have been an interesting angle to come from. But that's why he's my favorite character, because it made me think. It made me think. But the most important part of all of this is the discussion and the debate and the discourse. So what did you think of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? Have you seen it? Are you excited to see it? Who is your favorite character? And how do you think this ranks in the list of the newer Apes movies, the Caesar trilogy? And here, where do you think this lands? Let me know and we can get into it, and I'll catch you guys next time.